Welcome to the Omni Sports Podcast. Featuring your host, Bobby Labita.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Omni Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Labita, back with NBA action, and we've got another episode for you, and no more numbering what week it is, because I think once you hit about 30 pods, you're a real podcast, and you don't gotta quantify it with numbers. You just gotta go. And in terms of this podcast, last week we had our first secret word giveaway, which had one entry, and that one entry was wrong. It's not war of attrition, but good guess. So if you still want to go back and win that Anthony Davis free print, which I will send to you if you are within North America, I need to figure out the rules, shipping and international. Don't think I have any international listeners, but if I do, let me know and I will figure this problem out. But this week we're back with another beautiful secret word giveaway. Here we got Jokic, and you know what? I think this print deserves. I'm sorry for my listening audience, but you got Jokic dunking on Ant, and it is a fire photo. Jokic looks surprised he's up that high, and frankly, we all were when we saw that play this week. But don't worry, we'll talk about that play and many others in this episode. But before we do that, we got to get into our sponsor, and our sponsor this week is a special sponsor. It's Kawhi Leonard. Yes, Kawhi Leonard Special Chill Pills, available at a store near you. Because when you need to chill, why wouldn't you do it with Kawhi Leonard Special Chill Pills? Because, these playoffs have been stressful. 2 Game 7s, a Game 6, a Game 5. I was surprisingly pretty good with my predictions, and I'm going to talk about where I went wrong. So this is what the show is going to look like today. We're going to go over some quick news and notes about the WNBA and the Lakers head coach search, and then we're going to look at all 4 series. We're going to start with the East, go to the West, and then preview the conference finals for both. Sound good? I hope it does, because you're a hostage. You can't listen. You don't have choice in this. You don't have agency. I do, and I'm drunk with power this episode because I am deliriously tired while I record it.
Notes.
Sorry, I went like a full pirate there, but honestly, I felt alive. But in our news and notes section this week, we're going to talk about 2 things. First, the WNBA season has started. I encourage you to check it out. There's been already a bunch of amazing games and amazing plays. Unfortunately, I've been a little too focused on NBA to actually watch some of these games, but I've been paying attention to the highlights and I've been seeing some of the stats. And you know what? I think the WNBA is in the best place it's ever been, and if you like basketball, you should support it. It's the same game no matter who's throwing the ball in a hoop. It's the same strategy and same concept, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun this year. 40 games. We're about 40 games total in the season. We're about 4 games in, so hop on quick so you don't miss out on all the fun. And then I wanted to talk about the Lakers coaching search. And it looks like that the front-runner candidate is JJ Redick. And as a Lakers fan, I'm a little worried. Now, JJ seems like a very brilliant basketball mind. We see this in his podcast. We see this in various other things. But I just don't think it is a smart decision to put a brand new coach in Los Angeles with LeBron, with AD. I just think it's going to lead to a lot of struggles in the beginning that may not be worth it when it feels like you're on a quick timeline. According to sources, LeBron says he's not part of really the coaching search, and this coaching search is more for Anthony Davis, as he will be there more long term. And I could believe that to be true, but it's hard to believe that JJ Redick and LeBron not having a podcast together want to influence things, even though LeBron has said he's never talked to JJ about the job. But who knows? Also, along with that, apparently It's coming out. We don't know how true it is. Not coming from his mouth, but leaks is that apparently Anthony Davis was one of the main folks who's really done with Darvin Ham, which, I mean, it seemed like at different points of the year, different players seemed done with him. But back onto the subject of JJ Redick, it just feels like a Lakers move to do. We're going to do something splashy and fun and surprising and hoo-hoo-hoo. And you know what? Sometimes I want the boring decision. I don't need fun. I don't need crazy. I don't need, let's try something new. Yeah, know what? I want a seasoned coach. And if you're going to put a brand new coach in this situation who's never coached at the NBA level, I would love some assistants that have head coach experience or like real intense game time experience. I want to be clear. I'm not trying to say former players can't coach. I think they absolutely can and should, but I think there's a bit of a learning curve, and that learning curve makes sense on a team that is going up or trying to be good in a few years, right? But one that's like kind of like, we got to do it now. I don't know if that's the move. That's just me. But what do I know? Actually, I know a decent amount. I predicted 3 of the 4 series right when most analysts didn't even get 2 right, or they averaged about 2. So am I gloating? Is this what it's like? Oh my gosh. Well, now we're going to get on to the 4 different series.
Storylines of the week.
I'm just proud of this group, man, for real. It's one of the most special groups I've been around. It is the most special group I've been around just since I've been here. We all play for each other, and there's no ego. And when you got guys that can score 20 plus points every single night, 7, 8 guys, there can be a lot of ego involved with that. And we were able to nip that in the bud a lot earlier this season, And obviously having Pascal come here, midway through the season and adding his leadership and just, everything he's able to provide for our team offense and defensively has been huge. So I'm proud. I'm glad I was able to share with my family. My dad's from New York. He grew up on this series and this rivalry. So to have that embrace him after the game was everything. And, we're not done yet.
First, we have the Pacers and the Knicks, which went down to 7 games. And it was a back and forth. The Knicks won the first 2, then the Pacers, and Game 7 comes, and the Pacers pull the win out. Jalen Brunson fractures his left hand in the 3rd quarter of Game 7, all but sealing the nail in the coffin for the Knicks season. And it's only fitting that the Knicks season ends on, once again, another injury. Now, a lot of people will blame Tom Thibodeau and his minutes and his coaching style. Tom Thibodeau, if any coach believes in child labor, it's him. He believes you gotta work, you gotta earn your keep. I mean that as a joke. He's a great coach. He brought the Knicks this far. They were 1 game away from making it to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in a long time. But you do wonder if over the long haul of the season, long grind of the postseason, if all of these injury problems were exacerbated by the minutes that the players were playing. I think part of the issue is the Knicks bench depth really got kind of yanked apart with injuries and trades. You traded away some depth. You got Bogdanovich, who then got hurt. You had Julius Randle, who was hurt. You have Mitchell Robinson, who got hurt. Yeah, there's a trend here. And so unfortunately for the Knicks, it was just not enough. And if I'm the Knicks going forward, the things I might take away from this series is that I think, or this season really, is I think you trade Julius Randle. I think Julius Randle is a good player, but I think you build around Jalen Brunson, who brought your team this close. I think you need to give Jalen a little help. I think you need someone who can also have the ball sometimes and also pass the ball. Problem with Julius Randle, when he has the ball, he very much he likes to ISO, he likes to hold the ball, and I think Jalen Brunson can facilitate, but he needs, or he finds himself in the right space to make the right moves. That's really much his play style. Jalen Brunson's a very I'm gonna go here, and then I'm gonna weave and bob and now I'm in a position where you can't guard me, and I'm gonna get a layup that I shouldn't get. Right, that's very much his style. But if I'm a Knicks fan, I think I'm excited. I'm happy. This is the first time in a while that I think we have positive vibes from the Knicks universe. I think the kind of the disappointing thing is if you're the Knicks, game 3 of this series, you're so close going up 3-0 in Indiana, and then just far away 3-pointer kills you in daggers, and you're done. Now, if I'm the Pacers going forward, I think there's a lot to be excited about. Tyrese Halliburton gets to the Eastern Conference Finals, able to take his team. It looks like the moves that the Pacers have made the last few years have really worked out to build this sort of team that I think, I don't know how much farther they'll go, but the fact they've made it here is really impressive. Now, I would be remiss to not note that the Pacers also faced teams that were very injured. The Bucks didn't have Giannis, and they lost Dame for a game. And then you have the Knicks, who were injured entirely. Now, I think a lot of people use this to discredit the Pacers, which is fair, I think, in some ways, but you have to play the team that's in front of you, and it's not your fault if that team is injured, unless you're the ones doing the injuries, which the Pacers weren't doing. I think the Pacers, being a young, fast-paced team, it really thrives this part of the season when teams are tired, when teams are exhausted. When you have teams like the Bucks that have some older players, when you have teams like the Knicks who players are young but have just been grinded to the ground, the Pacers being able to play fast in those circumstances is just hard to do. And the Pacers in the closeout game of this series, they shot, I think, 68% from the field, like the whole game. Smashing a playoff record, which is crazy, and like a very exciting way to go into the next series if you are the Pacers. And we'll talk about who they'll be facing next. In the next series, we have the Celtics versus the Cavs, which was a 5-game series, and the kind of the takeaways from this series, I think, are that there's not much that's unexpected. You kind of expected Donovan Mitchell to have a game or two where he would pop off. The Cavs were struggling. They also had a couple injuries. Jarrett Allen didn't play, which led to some controversy. Apparently, there was a leak in the locker room that someone said that Jarrett Allen could have taken some sort of pain shot and he'd be able to play through it, but he didn't, and the quote kind of implied he wasn't tough. Zach Lowe. In the next series, we have the Celtics versus the Cavs, which was a 5-game series, and the kind of the takeaways from this series, I think, are that there's not much that's unexpected. You kind of expected Donovan Mitchell to have a game or two where he would pop off. The Cavs were struggling. They also had a couple injuries. Jarrett Allen didn't play, which led to some controversy. Apparently, there was a leak in the locker room that someone said that Jarrett Allen could have taken some sort of pain shot and he'd be able to play through it, but he didn't, and the quote kind of implied he wasn't tough. Zach Lowe on his podcast said, if I'm Jarrett Allen and I hear this, I would immediately go to the general manager and demand a trade, because pretty much like what's going on here. And the point behind that is, if someone's injured, you really you shouldn't criticize it. I understand pain tolerance is like an argument in toughness, but I don't know if that's a person's place. And if I'm that teammate, why say that? Why leak that to the media unless I'm trying to make him leave? Which if that is, just talk to him, or just, I don't know. It's just, I get bad vibes from it. So if I'm the Cavs, you're kind of in this weird position, because with the Cavs, you have Jarrett Allen and you have Mobley, who are kind of redundant with each other. You have the same problem with Garland and Mitchell, who are somewhat redundant. I think they work better together. But I think if you're the Cavs, you're definitely going to make some moves. I don't know if Max Strus, I forget what his contract looked like, but, Max Strus played very much like Max Strus this playoffs, which means he's to mid to bad for like 80% of the game, and then the 20% he's hot, he's like the best, it's got the hottest like stroke on court, and it's just like crazy. So kind of going forward, I imagine the Cavs will kind of reposition. Mobley in the last game was able to show some aggressiveness, which was really nice. And if you're the Cavs fans, it's a little disappointing because the Cavs actually were very close to taking another game from the Celtics in the last game, but the Celtics were pulling it out. And if I'm the Celtics going forward, I mean, it's kind of cruise control. You pretty handily beat the Cavs, and that was out without Porzingis. Porzingis is going to come back. Supposedly, they expect maybe game 3 of the next series. And if I'm the Celtics, I don't think there's really much to really talk about because you're just going to keep rocking and rolling. Jason Tatum's been playing, the team is playing like complete. I was going to say his team's playing better defense, and you kind of see this all around. The Celtics are really, as all teams are, but they're really stepping up for the playoffs. And, I think people will anticipate, I think people are quick to judge the Celtics because of their lack of consistency in the postseason, but I don't think we'll talk about in a second, but I don't think the Pacers are going to do much, or they'll do some things against the Celtics, but I think the Celtics will ultimately pull it out.
Outstanding game tonight here in Dallas. The crowd was buzzing. Both teams were battling. At the end of the day, Luka and Kyrie were special. Shout out Derek Lively. He had an amazing game. PJ Washington, what he did late in that game after being in foul trouble. But shout out OKC. Shea, he was different. He's different. We're going to be watching him for a long time.
All right, on to our first Western Conference series. We have the Mavs versus the Thunder, which went 6 games. And in this, kind of breaking it down, first I'm going to talk about the Thunder, and then I'll talk about the Mavs. So first with the Thunder, I think you see the takeaways from the series is SGA needs a lot of help. He had to do and create so much of what was going on. I also think that you'll see Josh Giddey might be moved or traded or something of that nature. He played a peculiarly low amount of minutes in the series, and he had some really weird plus-minus that wasn't great for him. So I imagine he might get moved. Gordon Hayward, after the Thunder lost, complained about not being used enough, which I think frustrated a lot of Thunder fans because he played like 40 minutes in the playoffs and scored 0 points. So you gotta score some points, buddy, if you want to get played in the playoffs. That's just kind of how it works. Sorry, Gordon, I don't make the rules. I just talk about them on a moderately listened to podcast. And moderately is doing a lot of heavy lifting with that word. Again, if I'm the Thunder, I'm young. I mean, I'm not young, but the Thunder are young, and they're exciting to look forward to. I think you get your first real playoff experience. You're able to take a couple games from the Mavs. You win the first series handily. If I'm a Thunder fan, at the beginning of the year, if you told me this was the outcome, I would be happy. Now, it's hard to take that in when you're a 1 seed and you lose in the postseason. It always feels like you left something on the table. But I think the Thunder are just not ready yet to take that next step and compete. I think Chet, once he's able to kind of gain some muscle, actually be someone who can dunk the ball consistently. In the last game, the Thunder did some alley-oops to Chet, and I was like, why are we not doing this more? He's 7 feet tall. It's just we see with the Mavs, one of their successes, they just got a couple big dudes, and Luka and Kyrie are just like, we're just going to throw the ball near the hoop, just slam it down somehow. And so, again, I think if you're the Thunder, lots to take away, lots of good things, but still, nevertheless, a disappointing end of the season. Now, on to the Mavs. And the Mavs vibes now are, immaculate. Everyone seems like they are besties. This team, this locker room is super close, and I think that's what you really need in the difficult part of the postseason like you have right now. Luka is notably banged up a lot. I think you're going to see, you see again the vision, like I talked about this last podcast, of the vision of, okay, you got Luka, you got Kyrie, two greats with the ball in their hand, and let's just put a bunch of good big guys and some solid defensive pieces around them, and we're going to be okay. And I think the Mavs going forward, this is their second time back in the Western Conference Finals in 3 years. I think I think we will see this more as a trend than an outlier going forward with the Mavs teams, as long as like Luka and Kyrie are doing their thing. But especially, it's just like, it's so interesting for me. I think for a lot of people is, Kyrie has had so many kind of toxic endings with like the last few places he's been. And like, this is the most mature he's seen. The vibe, like this is the best energy he's been putting out into the universe in a long time. And it's interesting when you feel like you can peg a guy and then he changes a little bit. He confuses. Yeah, he's a wily one on the court and off the court as well. But if I'm the Mavs, I'm looking forward to the next series. And we're going to talk about who they're facing in a second.
Murray has it. He'll fire up a prayer. That's it. The Timberwolves have knocked out the defending champion Denver Nuggets. They are advancing to the Western Conference Finals for the first time in 20 years.
And this is all with Anthony Edwards going 6 for 24, 2 for 10 from distance, and only 16 points.
But his fearlessness has given his team a different level of fearlessness as well. Minnesota doesn't know what they don't know, and they embrace that, and they love it.
And Naj Reid, fantastic down the stretch in the fourth quarter, especially when Karl Anthony Towns picked up his 5th foul. His defense on Jokic was absolutely special.
The Timberwolves outscored the Nuggets in the second half, 60-37. The Wolves have been a good second half team all season long.
Now, if all those other series were just delicious, like view the playoffs as a multi-course meal, right? They're all good. You go to the restaurant, you get the expensive 4-course meal, but this is the one they write about, Yelp about. This is the one they call their mom, who they haven't talked to in years, and like, I had something so delicious. It brought me back to my childhood. I had to call you and talk to you. I'm so sorry, Mom. I'll be a better son. That's not coming from experience, but this series, delicious. Nuggets, Timberwolves, 7 games. Yeah, just cancel the rest of the series. I want to see 14 more games of this. And what a series it was. Denver, game 7 at home, up 20 points in the third, and poof, the Timberwolves go on an immaculate run and take the lead. And then you see in the fourth quarter, Rudy Gobert with a turnaround fadeaway, first dagger. Ball bounces. Announcer says, I hope they don't get an offensive rebound. That'd be really bad. And whoop, cat slam. Offensive rebound. Second dagger. And I'm going to first talk about the Nuggets, and then I will talk about the Timberwolves. First, the Nuggets. The Nuggets post-game had excuses. I don't think they're wrong, but they were excuses. Their coach kind of talked about how, it's very difficult to play a full season, and then you have less of an off season, and then you come in and then boom, like people are tired. You want it a little less, which I think that all makes sense, but still that's not what you want to hear. Jamal Murray talked about how there was maybe a little less hunger. It's easier to be the hunter than the hunted, and when you're the former champ, everyone tried to give you their best. I think you saw that with the Nuggets this year. I think also a thing that not enough people are talking about with the Nuggets is that their bench depth, they lost a lot of it last year. I think losing Bruce Brown was like a big loss. And when that happened, it was like, oh, what's going to happen? And Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic actually played a lot of games this year. I mean, Jamal Murray was hurt, but again, that wear and tear getting into the postseason and it's kind of, ends up being too much. And I think this kind of goes to show how hard it is to repeat in the NBA, and it's not happened in the last few years. And in fact, the 4 teams that are left are 4 teams that have not won. I think the most recent winner is the Mavs in 2011. Then you have the Celtics in like 2010. Was it 10? I'm trying to, 8, I don't know. They beat the Lakers, so I blacked out that memory entirely for traumatic mental health reasons. And then you have 2 teams that I don't think have ever won it, the Pacers and the Timberwolves. So you got some really exciting stuff. But on to the team of the hour, if it were, the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves who have dethroned the former champions. And what was such a shocking series when you think about it. The Nuggets have home court. They've not lost at home like in the playoffs in a long time. Denver as a city, statistically speaking, across the 4 American major sports, has the biggest home field advantage because of elevation. And the Timberwolves win 3 games in Denver. That is wild. And first, I gotta give some flowers. Rudy Gobert, who at this point in the postseason has the best plus minus at 111 of any player in the postseason, coming off of his 4th Defensive Player of the Year. And Rudy Gobert is the only player in the top 15 of salaries to still be in the postseason. So when you look at other players who are making a lot of money, they're not bringing their teams as far as Rudy, this team that has had the best defense all year. Rudy, who had a somewhat of a game like dagger, like I mentioned, step back, fadeaway jumper, like, you know what? Maybe it's Rudy's world and we're all just living in it. And Rudy, maybe people give you the flowers that you deserve. And then Anthony Edwards, you're that dude. Even when he's not playing great, he has the right energy, he has the right attitude. I would love to have Anthony Edwards as a teammate. That sounds like a wonderful experience. Cat has been bringing it. Karl Anthony Towns is being more aggressive, and that's what we've wanted to see. He's had it in him. He can play. He's playing good defense. He's being a really good two-way player, and that's what you want to see if you're the Timberwolves. Jaden McDaniels playing great defense. Mike Conley, I'm so happy for him. Like the veteran making it to the conference finals. And Naz Reid, 6th Man of the Year. Sorry, I'm on this Timberwolves hype train. I think there's a lot to be excited about. And that's why I thought this series was great, because you saw 2 juggernauts. You saw the 2 biggest teams going at it. It really felt like it's I don't know. I don't have words for it. It was just one of the most fun series I think I've ever watched in my life. And it was such a delight. Now I'm going to preview the conference finals and talk about my post predictions for this past series before I go into my predictions.
Been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas.
Hey,
Bring gas.
can you send me a list of good restaurants? We're going to be there for like 5 days. I want you to send me a list of some good restaurants, okay?
Yeah.
All right. So first I'm going to talk about how I did in predicting the last set of series, and then go into these predictions, and then we'll end it. We'll just go straight into conclusion. No edits, no cuts. We're gonna naturally and gracefully transition like a plane that's in the air, and just gently we're just gonna gently land in the Hudson River. Was that the river that like heroic pilot? I'm off track. So, last series, I said the Timberwolves would win in 6. And I was wrong. Not really. I'll give it a win, because they won in 7, which I don't think most people would have picked at the beginning of the series. The Timberwolves, many people would have picked the Nuggets. I just felt like the Nuggets kind of what ended up happening. We're going to be tired, and the Timberwolves were hungry. And I didn't say 7 games because I thought if it went 7 games, the Nuggets would win at home. And they were. They were up 20 in the 3rd, and then they lost. They were just too tired. They were done. So I think of happy with that prediction. Then I had the Celtics in 5, which is exactly what happened against the Cavs. And I said, Donovan Mitchell's going to pop off for one game. And you know what he did? He did exactly that. And then you also had the Mavs and you had the Thunder, which I also said would go Mavs in 6. Oh, would you look at that? Would you look at the freckle on my wrist? I was also right. But not everyone can be perfect, even if they're 3 for 4 on predictions and 2 of 3 so far in the amount of games it would take. I was very wrong about one thing. I said the Knicks in 5. And if the last 30 seconds of Game 3 goes differently, I'm probably sitting here tooting my horn so hard that it can be heard in other zip codes, and the police are getting calls and noise complaints, and I'll just say it's Canoga Park. We always have fireworks. Why do we have fireworks in freaking May? Anyway. But the injuries derail them. And ultimately, you got to give kudos to the Pacers, right? As much as we want to talk about the Knicks being injured, the Pacers played good. They played fast tempo. They got really hot. They had some really high-scoring games. Miles Turner is a dog. I love that dude almost as much as he loves Legos, but I don't think I could love anything or anyone as much as he loves Legos. And now, onto the predictions. To the East, you have the Celtics and Pacers. I think most people would presume this to be like a sweep for the Celtics, or 5 games. I think it's going to go 6, but I still think it's going to go to the Celtics. I think the Pacers are going to have enough games where they get hot. I think the Pacers are going to surprise people. I think a lot of people have viewed the Pacers kind of cupcake schedule as if it were, with the injuries that they've had to deal with. But I think that's just like not the right way to view it. Everyone's injured in the playoffs. You have to do what you have to do. And part of making it this far is, being able to avoid those injury bugs. And so are the Pacers the 4th best team or one of the top 4 teams in the league? I don't know. But this year they are, in terms of the way that we decide these things. And I think we can't take that away from them. And I think they'll surprise people in this series. I don't think they'll pull it off, but I think they'll surprise people. And now this is like if you have 2 kids and you actually like both of them and you're forced to pick a favorite. That's how I feel about the Timberwolves and Mavs. I've been high on this Mavs Luka Doncic hype train since January. And since the Timberwolves pretty much, around a little after the All-Star break, when I was like, I don't think this is a mirage. I think this is real. I think that this is potentially sustainable. I think the Timberwolves, I think if the Mavs were facing any other team, I would pick them. Even the Nuggets, because the Nuggets are big, but they don't have just all of the massive height that the Timberwolves have. And I think the Timberwolves are going to find ways, so much of the Mavs game plan is alley-oops. And granted, alley-oops are hard to stop because, it's coming down, goaltending and stuff like that. But I think you're going to have enough deterrence in the paint with Rudy Gobert playing his coverage, and you have the other players that are hustling and bustling and moving. I think it's going to be enough to disrupt what's going on. I think the Mavs will still have their games because you have Luka and Kyrie who will get hot. And so I think it's going to be Timberwolves in 7. I think this will go 7 games. And I think we're in for another wonderful, wonderful, delightful series. And I'm just super excited. All right, y'all. So that was another episode of the Omni Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Labita. Thank you so much for listening. As I said, try to figure out what the secret word is. It's definitely not squeegee. Is it? I don't know, but it definitely isn't that word. And whoever can get that word first in the comments for this YouTube video, if you're listening on Spotify or wherever you're listening, go check us out on YouTube. Follow, see what's going on. It'll help us a lot. And watch some other vids. We put out some short form content. We put out other content besides these podcasts, and I'm hoping to do more of that in the future. And if you want to go back and get the AD print, go back to the last video. Go and try try to guess, figure out what the key word is, the secret word. We're gonna massage these rules and figure them out as they're going forward. So please, y'all, watch some WNBA games and just enjoy the rest of the season, because this season has been nothing short of spectacular, and I have no doubt that it's going to continue being that way.